All right, so welcome again to the 3D Experience user group. This is our second meeting of 2022. My name is Brian Reel. I'll be hosting. We have three panelists today, or three presenters, I should say. We have Jay Pinheiro that's going to go through the beginning presentation, some productivity hacks for designers on the 3D Experience platform. And then we have a special guest. We have a customer, Angelo Flamingo from Saflex Corporation, that's going to discuss some of his insight and experiences using the 3D Experience platform. So we thought it'd be nice to have a user testimonial, right, to let us know how the software is working. And then finally, we'll have a little bit of time for Todd Myers to go through some very common 3D Experience user questions and answers. So we'll see how much time we have left at the end of that, but should have a good full hour of content. So without any further ado, I'll turn this over to Jay. I believe your screen is up and presenting, so take it away, sir.
All right. So I will try to keep my presentation to about 15 minutes. I tried to be professional and time myself, and that's about how long it should last. We'll see. I tend to get on a roll and chit chat a little bit. I will try to keep it on the straight and narrow today. Just a 10-second background. I am a 20-year veteran here in the reseller channel, longtime SolidWorks user, ex-Creo user. Have been in the platform for about a year or so at this point, and these are some items that I found helpful. You want to call them hacks? We can call them hacks. I found them helpful as I've been learning the product here. All right. So today I have a short list, which is why I should be able to get through this in 15 minutes. Short list of things I've found here that we'll discuss for some of these tips. The first one is 6W tags. All right, so anyone who's gone through an implementation has heard of 6W tags. Every time I think of 6W, even I have to really think about what are the 6Ws. So here are the 6Ws, and yes, that the how is definitely kind of pushing it when it comes to 6W, but 5W1H doesn't really roll off the tongue quite as well. So the reason why I indicate that 6W tags are more than 6 is really got to do with what's going on underneath these guys. All right, so there are a lot of options built into these. So I know they're often thought of as a search tool function. They are not limited to just search. You can activate these tags in most widgets. In this case, I've got the bookmark editor selected here, and that is a minor note. So you have, if you have multiple widgets per tab, selecting the little widget, we can go ahead and activate tags even without running a search. All right. So in this case here, I will I'll look for the files that are locked. In this case, these are actually locked to me. All right. Now what I did is I closed the tag dialog box on the left-hand side of the screen, and it kept the filter on the bookmark editor I was looking at. And up top, very much like SolidWorks, it has a little piece of feedback up here, that little funnel icon, the little filter icon up on the little tag next to the search bar to indicate we're not seeing everything. We have this thing filtered out. All right. So if I hop back in, right, I can either trash them or keep them active. If I trash them all, the little icon there goes away. All right. So the first example was using those tags on a bookmark editor. Now, if the files don't exist in the bookmark, I've got the product structure explorer, which is not bookmark by bookmark, but assembly by assembly. And the same sort of methodology works here on this guy. If the assembly were slightly larger than this little drone that I grabbed off of GrabCAD, you'd have a much longer list here. But same deal. I can be in the product structure explorer, click on that little tag icon, and start adding tags to filter out the assembly tree to stuff that I have locked to me. All right, same deal. If I close out the tags, I get the little icon up on the tag up top. If I close them out, if I trash out the tags, I get back to the full-blown feature product structure. Okay. So that's one way to use tags, right? The next way here is actually the more traditional. It's in search results. With the platform, one of the things that a completely different presentation I had created for the platform had to do with the fact that we don't need folders. We can do a lot with search results. We can do a lot with metadata and finding files. So here, if I pop open SolidWorks, all right, let's say my goal for today is to do some assembly work, and I'm going to add fasteners. All right, so traditional thing that we would do here is run a quick search for the fastener I'm looking for. Click and drag and drop this little guy into my assembly. All right, now the option that I want to show you here has to do with these search results, and there is a way. If you hit that little drop down caret there in the settings, we have this little thing that says use tabs to show searches. So this is actually a pretty cool little option, especially if I'm going to sit here and do assembly work for a little while. If I turn this on and I go back to the search, now when I run that search for the M10, I get a little plus sign up on my search results. All right. Now I'm being very specific, searching for an M10. I could make this a much more generic, hex nut search. But in this case here, same deal. I've got my hex nuts. I can open up a new tab here, and we can type in M10 bolt. And if you notice the part number, yes, even we at CATI download stuff from McMaster, but we at CATI take the time to simplify them and add the good metadata to them. This is almost complete. A couple washers would make this nice. So if I search for a washer here, same deal. Now, if I leave the searches alone, I can come back here to my session tab, look at my feature tree, lock and unlock files, do anything I need to on my session tab here, and I haven't lost my search results. I can come back here and flip back to my search, and those 3 search results are still sitting there, ready for me to grab and drag and drop the files into the assembly again. So it's just a nice way to work, especially when I'm sitting here, just populating assemblies with items. All right. Now, back on the platform, or back in the internet version of the platform, not the SolidWorks add-in. All right. We have the ability here to create search favorites. All right. For searches we use all the time. There's just things that we search for all the time. I'm going to search for handle, and while the text is good enough to get me down to 118 files, I find myself almost all the time going in and applying very similar filters to this. So I want to have physical product because I'm looking for CAD files. I want to have the latest revision files, so I'm ready to access these guys. All right, now what I can do over here, and I did that kind of quickly, in the upper left, I know my lefts and my rights. In the upper right, that little drop down caret has a way to create a search favorite. Okay, so if I type in any old name here, in this case it's handle, that's fine. The next time I go to access the search, I'll have favorite searches, and I get this little guy. Now, a couple things to note here. I've already done this a few times for the hardware, so that's what you see there, items 2, 3, and 4. The other thing to note is up next to favorites, I've got the little plus sign as well. All right. So if I click on that again, it automatically does two things. It uses the search text that I had, and it also uses the tags that I've had, and brings me right back to that search later on. These are obviously editable, just like everything else in our world here. We can right click on this thing, say edit. If you note up top while you're doing this, it will actually say modifying handle. So it finishes out the search. You can add or subtract any of your tags, and then hit the OK down at the bottom, and you can modify this guy. Now, as kind of a bonus, the text that I was searching for in this case was not consequential. I mean, obviously for the hex bolt and the socket cap screw, I'm searching for very specific items that I want to continue to use the text, not just the filters, but the text. If I run the handle search again, I'm not stuck with just handle. I can wipe out the search text, and I'm really just using that favorite to quickly apply my 3 most popular search tags. All right, and in this case, I changed it out. I'm looking at different valves. So just a nice little option here for favorites. I'm really a big fan of the search tabs, being able to maintain the different searches. Okay. So this little guy, I think I'm a little bit different than some of the other coworkers of mine. I tend to have multiple widgets on any one tab of my dashboard. Actually, I shouldn't say most of my coworkers. I know Keith runs this way. He's got a lot of tabs on a lot of widgets on his tabs rather. The one you may actually have that way is the Product Structure Explorer. Product Structure Explorer and the 3D Navigate have great interaction. So chances are you've got these guys sitting right next to each other. I have that in many different spots in my board and my dashboard. So if I open up this valve in my Product Structure Explorer to look at the tree, right, if I want to temporarily, without monkeying around with my dashboard, focus in on I almost called it the graphics area, and then this is not SolidWorks. That is not the graphics area. That is 3D Navigate. If I want to temporarily maximize this, there's just two things you can do. What I do is I double click on the header. It's just a bigger target for me to hit. But you can also hit the little 4 arrow icon in the upper right. All right, so this just allows me to focus in on the on that little widget, and I'll come in here and I will maybe come on. There we go. So focusing on this allows me to go in and hide some of the big outer components, dial in on some of the inside guts of this little valve, and take a look at it. Now to undo this, I tend to double click on that header bar right again. It goes right back to the dashboard that it was. Now I've got this thing in kind of a mix match view where half the components, well, half the volume is hidden when I hid those big castings. To get them all back real quick, in the Structure Explorer, I can just do a Control A to select all, and then I can just show them, and everything goes right back to the way it was. Right? So great little interaction. This is actually a great tool set, the two of these. It is so useful that it makes its appearance here in tip number 4 as well. And yes, I was getting a little punchy when I was writing this thing, so there's a couple of odd little subheadings for these titles, for these chapters rather. All right. we've seen this little widget with filters applied to it, and it works out great, but it's not limited to just that. All right. What we can do, instead of filtering out components out of both the tree and the graphics area here, we can apply different colors to them to match the tags. All right. So if I activate the little tag icon next to the search there, oh, come on, computer, there we go. Instead of selecting the tag, I'm going to hit the little pips. I've heard this called many things. I went to training once at DriveWorks and they were in England, and they called anything that had any button that had the three dots on it, they called it pips, and that was 20 years ago, and it's stuck in my head ever since. So you might call it ellipse, you might call it three dots, whatever we want to call it. That little icon there at the end of the line. If I click on that, the last icon on the right is supposed to look like an artist palette, and it applies colors. So right away, two things happen. The 3D Navigate is colored, and the colors are actually, there's a very little sliver, thin sliver of colors applied to the structure itself in the Explorer area. So it's just a good way to visualize what's what. All right. So to clear that out, just click off this thing. And let's do that one more time. One of these components was part of an engineering change, which is a whole nother topic to get into, which is one of my favorite things with the platform. Yes, this was just a downloaded from GrabCAD drone that I used just to have some sort of data set to play with. But I threw one of these components through an engineering change. So over in the left-hand side of the window, one of my tags is realized for change action. All right. Now this one, there's only one component that matches the bill. So it nicely highlights those, and there's four of them there. It nicely highlights those in yellow for me, and it ghosts out everything else. So I don't have to go digging or searching or anything like that. Just a quick visual in that 3D Navigate, and I'm good to go. All right. While I'm here for half a second, my trivia question for everybody involved, and if you want to chat the answer, chat the answer. And I should have prepped Brian. I was going to ask a trivia question, but if you notice, the propellers have that cylinder around them. Anybody know why they have the cylinder around them? Traditional SolidWorks methodology here for something. I'll go forward to the next screen before I give the answer, just in case somebody does know the answer and wants to chat it for kudos. All right, the drone itself does not look like it has the real geometry does not have four pie plates sitting here. All right, this is if you haven't guessed it, flow simulation. When we do a flow simulation on this thing, we take the rotating region and we make a nice little cylinder out of it. So when I did my engineering change, I actually ran these things through flow just to have a A/B comparison, because I have access to it, and it was actually a pretty interesting little study.
So Jay, we got a couple answers, and I'll probably have to stop you here on your presentation, but just for time constraints. But if you could answer one question for us, the question was from where's the setting to have these search with tabs? And I think that was back inside the add-in inside of SolidWorks. But if you could answer that question, and then we did get several. We did get several answers to your trivia. I think Matt Duro might have got the first one in fluid domain for flow simulation.
Yes, sir.
So a couple of right answers there. Thank you.
So in SolidWorks, look at that. Come here, you little bugger. If I See if I can get it up here quick enough. There's a down arrow right here that has a settings in general, and this is the little. Is that that's the question? Was about these tabs, how they show up?
I believe so. Yeah, it was the settings to have the search with tabs.
Yep. So
All
it's
right.
a little Easter egg.
It is. Thanks, Jay. I appreciate. Sorry, I had to cut you a little short here, but
No
Angelo, I think you were having a little background noise, so I went ahead and muted you, but I've unmuted you now. But I will change to make you the presenter.
All right.
Give me 1 second here. Okay, Angelo, you should be the presenter. Feel free to share. And you are ready to move forward.
All right. Let me grab the screen here. And I'm going to bring up the presentation here quick. Oops. Let me jump those around. So a little better. Everybody see the presentation?
Yeah, looks great. Thanks, Angelo.
All right. Like you were saying, my name's Angelo Flamingo. I'm a mechanical engineer, and my company is Saflex Design. And I'm going to just kind of talk a little bit about how my company went from some of the existing tools, older tools, and how we migrated into 3DEXPERIENCE. So I'll give you a little bit of an overview, talk about my market, vision for the company, review some of the systems I used, and then talk a little bit about my transition into the 3DEXPERIENCE. And then I can conclude with some questions. So Saflex Design, the name actually came from a product that I was working on a few years ago. It was a spring cone, and we called it a Saflex cone. So it was a springy interior structure and had a mesh exterior. So that's kind of where we came up with the Saflex, combination of safe and flex. That's been quite a few years ago, so that I still got some of those products around. But then we've kind of migrated into like a freelance mechanical engineering company. And during the beginning, it was kind of just me with some software, and had a central location, full 1 to 2 full-time employees. And then as we grew, we started to increase our full-time employees, and then we also moved to some part-time employees. And we started to diverse our central location, and we did that through some of the existing tools for 3DEXPERIENCE. So our target customer, we really seek to make a partnership with our customers. We're looking for small to medium-sized manufacturers, some companies that are looking to bring products back into the United States, want to local source some things, and then are at a point where they think they need to maybe bring on a full-time engineer, or kind of need an engineering service, or an engineer employee or something internally. And then ultimately we like to have them kind of being open to some remote environments, and want to move maybe onto a cloud or into a more environment that's kind of interacting. So the vision was to create a remote engineering department in a way that we're basically kind of the cubicle next door. Even though we aren't residing there, we're more networked into your environment, but we want to be kind of that engineering department and that representation. We want to fulfill their product design needs, from reverse engineering, product improvements, new product developments, and then also give them some tools in their control and communication of their engineering documentation, storage, retrievals, revisions, visibility, and then ultimately creating a PDM to like an ERP enterprise link and communication process. So in the past, when we were just getting started and starting to grow a little bit, there was multiple systems we use. This is just kind of a list of a few. There's a lot of emails and other things that we also use, but for a review like Soho, we brought that on as a customer task management, a project management tool, and also a time tracking tool. So we could bring in users and then assign them to tasks, and we could monitor the progress of those tasks and then assign that stuff to or associate some of that stuff to specific customers. Then we utilized SolidWorks and also the SolidWorks PDM. Once you get more than 2 people working on SolidWorks, you just have to have a data management system. We centrally located that on one of our own servers, gave us revision control and helped break down customer utilization and separate some of their work internally. So we had ability to structure that and give some specific access to some of our customers. Utilize the Dropbox for allowing customers to access certain files and communicate directly with them with PDFs or drawings, SolidWorks drawings, SolidWorks models, and allowed them to kind of interface with what we are designing for them and what they may need to bring into a larger assembly or internalize into their processes. Okay, and then that was structured for customer-specific accesses. And like I said earlier, a lot of this was on central storage, and we utilized a VPN for external access. And they would access directly into the SolidWorks PDM through that VPN. And this was kind of, it worked okay, but at times, a lot of the users that I had, my customers would move around in like their offices, or they would take their laptop home and they'd be on a different network. And once they're on a different network, they would lose the accessibility to the VPN. So when it first started, it kind of worked okay, but then towards the end, most of my customers just kind of shied away from it just because of the ease of use. So that was a little bit concerning for me. I wanted everybody to be able to function properly, and I kept thinking about more of a cloud-based or an area where you could just log on and you could get access to all the different things that we're working on and be specific to the customer. So I started to get some things from SolidWorks, and I noticed this 3DEXPERIENCE platform being introduced. And as I reviewed that platform and some of their apps that they utilize, it started to directly relate to the systems I'm using and the direction I wanted to move the company. And this slide kind of shows a little bit about how I was previously utilizing the Zoho for the tasks and how that moves into the collaborative task environments where I can associate those to a customer, I can assign them to a user, I can monitor the progress, the customer can see the progress. I can create issues when I work, got another customer that's monitors issue tracking. They do a little bit larger environments for manufacturing. And then ultimately, some of that can be driven up to a project management environment, or the project management environment can drive down those collaborative tasks. So a lot of what I was using in Zoho and assignments and visibility carried directly into the 3D experience. The PDM, obviously product data management, that's integrated into that environment. But what was very nice with this is that moved it from my local server to utilizing that VPN to cloud-based. So it kind of gave me the tools to get to where I had the vision of just bringing people on, logging on, and having your data available, and that communication very user-friendly. And through that login, then you can specifically assign the customers, you can associate visibility, and give them specific access to certain areas. We've also implemented change actions, and we route those internally and externally with the customers. And then the bookmarks help us at least give some kind of general breakdown. That's also part of what we did in the Dropbox environments, and allow to specifically assign certain areas. So some customers that aren't as user-friendly in some of the 3D experience environments, they can kind of jump into the bookmarks and find their way through it real easy. And then as they grow and progress, we can bring on other things. We can get them into the collaborative task, we can get them into the routings, and start really exposing them to the management that's internal to the 3D experience. All right, so that kind of just goes through a quick overview. So if you've got any questions, I'm open for that. I just as a quick conversation there, the vision was to try to get the company to be like a remote engineering environment. And early on, we did have some trouble trying to get through the VPN and getting that transparent kind of network environment. And the 3D experience really allowed us to move that to a cloud base and bring that inside of each of our customers' environments. We also utilized that 3D experience to internally to allow some of our part-time employees to be able to work remotely, and then I could monitor their tasks and progress, and have a lot of that visibility similar to a customer interface. So it's been very useful for us.
All right, thank you, Angelo. We did have a couple of questions come through that I can read and see if you can answer those, as well as any of the other gang, if you want to chime in as well. The first question here, it says, how is the speed of loading and rebuilding models and assemblies over the cloud-based system?
Well, we're not modeling on the cloud base. We're still utilizing a local SolidWorks license. So really, my employees, when I bring on like a remote employee or a customer, internet speed is a concern. I prefer the fastest you can get, because there is a little bit of lag when you have larger assemblies and you're trying to pull those down into a local environment and work on those. But I'm not familiar with designing directly on the cloud base.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Dennis was asking specifically there. I think he was just talking about the working in that system versus a local system. So I think you've answered that. The other question was from another attendee: did you consider a cloud-based server still using PDM? So I think we're referring to hosting PDM on the cloud.
Yes, I did. And I also, there's a PDM version that was kind of moving into the cloud-based environment. And so I started weighing some options. Did I want to invest in like a cloud-based server and load up the PDM environment there, and then still have to utilize Zoho and still utilize some of my other storage environments, versus maybe moving into the 3D experience and then having the option to bring on these other apps. So I moved into the 3D experience environment because of not only having the PDM and having it on the cloud base, versus maybe just moving the PDM Professional to the cloud base, but the opportunity of all the other apps that are in that environment. I've got some customers that will have different needs across the board, and I also envision bringing some of those apps into their environment and introducing them to possibly more FEA, possibly more flow, possibly more production control, or a lot of those aspects. So I did consider it, but I felt that the environment and how it's growing and the ability to fine tune that environment, the 3D experience environment, to my customer needs, really led me to more of that 3D experience platform.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that helps. Another question from the group for you, Angelo. What role is next? Are you looking to get into simulation or manufacturing?
Well, yeah, good question. I've grown pretty good. I think we doubled this year, and I brought on a couple more part-time employees. I really look to try to grab onto more of the, I guess you could call it like the breadth of the engineering department, so to speak. So I kind of want to look into more if the customer's looking at R&D or reverse engineering some items, versus just kind of documenting, controlling their existing environment. But then I also want to look into moving into their production and looking how their product flows inside their facility, and how this new product might be introduced, and then how we're fixturing and handling and manufacturing that product. So what's next? I think it looks at more down the end of R&D side of it, and also a little more into the depth and nuances of the manufacturing side.
All right, excellent. Couple comments about great presentation. So I think you did great, Angelo. And if there are no other comments, I will go ahead and pass back to Todd for the final presentation of the hour. So again, thank you, Angelo. And Todd, I am making you the presenter here.
All right, very good. Great presentation, Angelo. And I love that you emphasize the bookmark editor. That is one of my favorite tools here in the platform. It's great, very versatile. And I'll be going into it through some of this presentation, I'm sure, as I start answering some of these questions. But anyway, this is just going to be going over some of the frequently asked questions and giving them some answers and context. A lot of these are pulled just from our interactions with people evaluating the platform, new users, and people that have some experience under their belt with the software. So one of the most common questions we first get is, let's see here, what is the difference between an application and a role? So you can think of a role as a group of applications that pertain to someone's job function, right? We have people that are doing project planning. Well, there's a project planner role. And these roles come with the different apps that allow people to get their job done, right? So Here's just some of the most common apps. I'd expect most of the people on the call, most of the customers that we're going to interact with will eventually be interfacing with the database. And so they're going to have at least the collaborative industry innovator role. You can see that that has an icon. If you look in your interface in the platform, there's an Innovia icon. This is a product that was developed by Innovia for the 3D experience by Dassault. Collaborative designer for SolidWorks, right? A different role, and the roles work together to do different things. Collaborative industry innovator, again, one of the most versatile tools. It has about 20 or so applications within it. You know, some roles only have 1 or 2 applications as a part of it. Like, for example, the collaborative designer for SolidWorks, that only has a couple roles. It's just strictly for connecting SolidWorks to the database. And it also has a role for generating derived formats locally when you start saving data to the cloud. So you can think of roles as the products, which are the job functions that get assigned to your users. And the roles, the applications, are contained within the roles. Next question here, where is my CAD and other data saved? So this could mean a couple different things. Geographically, it is saved in one of the data centers that Dassault Systems manages with 3D Outscale, which is their own internal brand of security, software security. When you set up your tenants, your data is going to be saved up to the server stack that's closest to you geographically. And it doesn't matter which location that is, everyone in your organization, even if they're located overseas, they're still going to be accessing that data over the internet to that original location where the data is saved. There are options to allow data to be replicated to a server that's closer to a user, but those are assigned on an individual basis. So in general, they're all going to be, all your data is going to be in one location. And that again is going to be geographically closest to whatever your admin location is. Other part of this question could be, because people ask the same question, but they're looking for different answers. This is geographic, but in the tenant. So when you are actually set up on the platform, where is my data stored? And that's stored in what's called a 3D space or a collaborative space. This is the container, the database for everything that you're managing in the product lifecycle. So it could be your CAD files, PDFs, drawings, documentation, images, all of the issues, the routes that you use to control transitions and approvals, the any change actions that you generate to control how geometry and projects progress and change. All of that information is going to be stored in a collaborative space. You're not limited to a single collaborative space. Some customers like that, and they have everything in there. Some customers can break out into different collaborative spaces based on projects or teams. And depending on how your tenant is set up, you can share data between the different databases. I can use files from one database in the assembly that's controlled in another database. So you have a lot of options, but this is generally where in the tenant your data is stored. Okay, how do I find my files, right? You've saved them up to the cloud. We just looked at a database, and should we just go scroll through there? What are the best ways to find my data? Well, I'm not going to go too deep into this because in the next user group or two, we have Randy Simmons is one of our elite application engineers. He's got a whole presentation doing a deep dive on how do I find my data. But I'll show you some things in general, and I'll show you one special search that has been requested, like how to find certain information. I'm just going to maximize this 3D Space app right here. I'm just double clicking on this top of this tab here to look through here. This is one way you can find your data, right? This is a collaborative space. You can scroll through here, but anyone that's used the platform knows that this is not the most efficient way to find your data. You have options to see this through thumbnails and a list view like such, but it doesn't load everything at once. You got to keep scrolling. You can do it this way, not the most efficient. The most efficient way to find data is using search. And so you can do a simple search for PRD, which is a physical product. That's how our CAD geometry, our configurations of a geometry are categorized. So you can do a search on PRD and find data that way. And Jay showed you some great filters for getting down to data and isolating what you're actually looking for. Randy's going to go much more in depth on this in the next month or two. I also love using bookmarks. If you haven't used bookmarks, they're super special. They help you find things quickly. I'm just going to close this search result and I'll minimize this widget. So I'm just double clicking there on the top. I'm going to maximize this bookmark editor, so that's the only thing we have to see here. Bookmark editor is great when you're saving files up to the platform. You have the option to add them to a bookmark, and that's just allowing you to find something quickly in the future without having to go search for it. You can kind of replicate a Windows Explorer kind of structure, even though all that we're doing is organizing links to data. And the data actually isn't living in here. But you can do a lot of great stuff with the bookmark editor. You can delete files, you can change the workflow, you can lock them or unlock them, which is like check in and check out. You can explore the file structure and what things are connected to other items like parent and child relationships, where this is used in others. So bookmark editor, another great way to find your data. So searching and bookmark editor, I would recommend as the best methods here. Let's see here. I think I just lost my PowerPoint. Here we go. Oh, from beginning, there we go. Let's go back to here. Okay. So how do I search for everything a specific user has checked out? So this is the deepest I'll get into searching, but you have this very handy advanced search. I want to see all the files that I currently have locked, right? So I'll just go to an advanced search, and then I'll start filtering down through all of these criteria that I have access to. I'm looking specifically for physical products, so the CAD geometry. And let's see here. So I'm going to scroll down looking for a locked. So here I've got lock. I can say is true, so something I have checked out, and then I'll go ahead and search my name. And I'll hit search. All right, so there's 112 results of things that I currently have reserved, or we're calling that locked, that other people cannot access. But I can search for other people. What do they have checked out? What does Jay have checked out? Just to get a status and make sure I'm not asking for something I can't actually modify. All right. Another question we commonly get, this is typically from customers that have not yet purchased, but is the 3DEXPERIENCE platform ITAR compliant? And no, it is not. ITAR requires that only US nationals are authorized to view and access data, and the data cannot leave the borders of the United States. So because the way the platform's set up and the way that Dassault systems can use third-party servers to host data or transmit data, it could potentially leave the borders. So it is not currently ITAR compliant. There have been discussions about providing options for that. There are private cloud options and on-premise solutions for the platform. It is not the on-cloud option that that we typically are discussing when we're talking about 3D Experience here. But we do have teams that deal with the on-premises solutions, and if that is a requirement, then we can recommend some solutions for you. There is a blog on security. So if you're interested in that and you've got your smartphones, you could take a picture of that QR code. That will take you to this, our CATI blogs, where there is a good overview of the efforts that Dassault Systems puts into securing your data and the physical locations of the data stacks. All right, what is a CAD family and what is a physical product? Let's go in here to the bookmark editor, where I hope to be able to explain this pretty well. You might see some duplicate looking files when you are first getting onto the platform. Here I've got a list of configurations and parts, and a lot of them have the same name, but they have like an extension at the end of the name. But we'll notice there's a bit of a difference, let's see here, between, let's see if I can mark this icon for MST ending in 227 and this icon, right? There's a little difference. These four are all the same. All right, so this is a CAD family right here. This is the object that's created for CAD geometry when we're saving it up to the platform. If that geometry, if that SOLIDWORKS file, for example, has a single configuration, only one physical product is created for it, right? And typically that's going to be the default configuration. In the case where you have multiple configurations, you're going to end up with multiple physical products. So all four of these are physical products that are basically attached to this CAD family object. Also important to note though, when you're developing products in SOLIDWORKS that you're going to be managing in the platform, if you're using custom properties and configuration specific properties, the custom properties are mapped to the CAD family, all right? And it's the configuration specific properties that are mapped to the physical products. Let's go ahead and get out of here for a second. You can see a graphical example of this if we turn on our Relation Explorer here from the bookmark editor. And here we're seeing the CAD family, right? So if I expand the child dependencies here, we can see that, yes, there's a lot of components that are at the top level, but all of these physical products here are different configurations. So it's a single assembly file, but physical products for each config. And that wraps up what I was prepared to present today. There's always more questions that come in, and if you have more, feel free to ask them here. And if we can't address them at this time, we'll prepare an answer for you for the next user group.
All right, thanks, Todd. I don't see any additional questions. Oh, just as I say that, one of them pops in here. It says, how did we access the last detail screen? I'm assuming this is the screen you still have open here, Todd.
This screen here?
I believe so. That's the last one that you showed,
Yeah.
right? The bookmark editor.
this is the bookmark editor. It's an application that is part of the collaborative industry innovator role. So it's an application that comes with and it's available to anyone that actually is doing any database access. Anyone that has access to the data that's being managed in the cloud will have access to this. And you can simply add links to this, to your data in here, or you can add links when you save files up to the platform.
I think to clarify, Todd, it's the relations. There was an image that you clicked on, and it kind of reminded me of like Treehouse.
Okay, yeah, sure. Sorry about that. Yep. So this is called relations here. So this is on the top tool strip here, the bookmark editor. When we click on that, it will look at the parent and child relationships of whatever we had selected. So in this case, it's just going to show me graphically this CAD family, but then we can click on these buttons on the left or right to drill down or up to see where else this is used or what else is contained within these subassemblies. If we have data like cut sheets that we need to save, or purchase orders and things that might be audited, you can attach those to these files, and you'll see links to that in this graphical view as well.
Perfect. Yep, that's exactly what we were asking. Thanks, Todd.
Sure.
One final question. We've got about a minute and a half to go here. A question was, can a user be locked out of their data on the server?
Well, the admin can remove them.
Mm-hmm.
So in a sense, yes.
So we might need a little more clarification on that, Ryan, if you get a chance to contact us. I think you can reply to the marketing organizer of this, and that might answer. A little further description: can SolidWorks lock them out?
I don't believe so. So the SolidWorks connector is going to grant them access to the database. As long as they have that role assigned to them and that add-in is turned on, then they'll be able to access the data.
Okay.
Is he referring to what happens at the end of the year when the renewal comes in? If you choose not to renew?
I think we're getting more clarification on that.
Yeah, that could be a deeper dive.
Yeah, if they own their data, SolidWorks cannot lock them from it.
Oh no, as long as they are paying their, for the access to the apps, right?
Right.
Then they have access to it. You're the only ones that have access to your data. Actually, SolidWorks does not access your data. They're providing the infrastructure and the platform for you to manage your data.
All right, I think that covers it. To all the panelists, thank you very much for the presentations. Angelo, Jay, and Todd, and Keith for chiming in there. I think we'll wrap this meeting. This is being recorded, so you'll have access to see this here shortly. Thank everyone again for attending, and hope to see you at our next meeting, which should be on April 20th. Thanks, and have a great day.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, guys.